Hey everybody, this is D Hunter, bringing another action figure review. Today, we're going to look at the McFarlane Spawn, Deviant Spawn. This is from the comic Rat City. Now, I believe this is a different Hellspawn, not Al Simmons. I believe his real name is Peter Karn. This is part of the newest wave of Spawn figures. I ordered this from the McFarlane toy store, and it arrived today, so let's take a look at the packaging. It's on this clear sort of clamshell package. 30 years McFarlane Toys, Spawn. Here he is in the package. Looks like we have a couple alternate hands and a couple of energy effects. I see a stand and a collector's card as well. On the back side, you can see the Deviant Spawn posed up, based off the artwork of Rat City #1. At the bottom, there's a barcode, if that helps anybody. So with no further ado, let's open him up. And I did get the bundle from the McFarlane toy store, both Deviant Spawn and Robot War Spawn. Now, both these figures have Platinum Chase variants, and they're starting to show up at Walmart. I'm on the hunt for both those. If anyone has a lead on where I can get one, or can help me out, drop me a line in the comments below. It is much appreciated. Alright, now that this figure out of the package, here he is with all the accessories laid out. We have a display stand, a collector's card, a total of 4 interchangeable hands, and then 2 energy effects. Before we take a look at all that, let's talk about and check out the figure. So this is the Deviant. Description is, in the distant future, Peter Karn, a loyal soldier, was injured in the line of duty. He was issued prosthetic legs and summarily dismissed by his corporate masters. After agreeing to partake in a series of experiments, the nanites in his legs became infected with necroplasmic energy due to a power surge that traveled forward through time caused by Al Simmons. Now, known as the Deviant, Peter is fighting against the new corporate-controlled government. He seeks to help those in need and throw off the shackles of the oppressive New World Order. He protects the poor and homeless in his city. He has a sort of semi-armored suit. Kind of makes me think of Iron Spawn, which is not a bad thing. So let's take a closer look. He has that sort of traditional Spawn look. Black head, white on the sides, green eyes, but it's different. It's more futuristic. He is a Hellspawn. He's got some skulls on his sort of chest there. Big giant collar, although it looks like it's, I don't know, almost like it's metal or armored or something. He's got spikes on one shoulder, not the other. Spikes on his arms. It looks like a single jointed elbow. Maybe it's double. We'll check that out shortly. He has a pretty sad looking cape. It does have a bendy wire, but it's just so thin. I don't know. Kind of unimpressed by that thing. He's got all this stuff across his belt. Little skull thing. Think it's double jointed knees. Kind of like a futuristic looking Spawn, and that's more or less what he is. And a closer look at his face and head sculpt. Looks like sort of an armored helmet type look. Big giant exaggerated collar. And then here's the figure, broken down as far as he can go, with all of his removable parts detached. Now let's check out his accessories, starting off with the boring stuff. Here's his display stand, typical McFarlane display stand we've seen countless times before. And then we have his collector's card. As you can see, it's an image of Deviant Spawn from Rat City. Spawn logo, 30 years. On the back side, there is a description. If you want to read that, pause now. Now let's check out his hands. He has a total of 4 of them. 2 left hands and 2 right hands. Here he is with his first pair of hands. These are his fists. And I will comment, the spikes on his shoulder are kind of rubbery. You're not going to break them off. And I don't know if these are supposed to be spikes or it's supposed to sort of be flame, but they're also rubbery, very bendable. And here's his second set of hands. His right hand looks like a gripping hand, and it has a trigger finger. And his left hand looks like an open hand. Could be grabbing, choking, or throwing hand. And now for these energy effects. They're cast in a semi-transparent green plastic. It's going to be sort of coming to a projectile. He'll wrap them around his hands. Here's a look at this Spawn figure, utilizing those energy effects. It's a little bit difficult to tuck the rubbery sort of spike things in with his hands, but once you get it, it stays pretty secure. Now let's talk about his cape, which frankly sucks. Todd McFarlane, the king of capes, has released some pretty crappy capes on some of the late Spawn releases. Rat City Spawn, Call of Duty Spawn, horrible capes. So, The material, very shiny, not a huge fan. It's got these sort of lines on it, and it sort of comes out from here. I must confess I'm not familiar with the source material. I know what it is, but I haven't read it, so I can't really comment on how the cape looks in here. I'd assume it's fairly accurate to the comic. It does have a bendy wire on either side. But as a whole, it's just kind of dinky and sad looking. Not very impressive. Now they've taken a pretty good look at both the figure and its accessories. Let's check out his height. From bottom to the top of his head, standing about 7.6 or 7.7 inches tall, which could translate to about 19.5 centimeters. And for his articulation, starting with his head, of course, it can rotate side to side. He can look up and down a pretty good amount. Can tilt his head from one side to the other. Shoulders on a ball joint goes up more than 90 degrees. Shoulder pad, pretty good job of not obstructing anything. Up, down, around. He's got this butterfly ring between his shoulder and chest, increase the range of motion, and more importantly, covering the giant gap that would be there. He's got a bicep cut below that. Looks like it is a single jointed elbow, 90-degree bend, with more rotation here. So you got rotation here and here. His wrist can also rotate, and it's hinged as well. Torso, he's got a ball joint, rotate around, forward and back. Another one in his waist, rotate around, forward and back. Between the two, very good range of motion in the torso area. Legs, complete does the splits, McFarlane style hip joints, rotation, it's okay. Legs go forward, about that far, back not much, single jointed knees, then his ankle, forward and back, tilt rock. Now there is no rotation in the ankle or the knee, so that's about all you're going to get for rotation there. Here's a look at this Deviant Spawn walking through the slums of the city, protecting the homeless. And here he is on a rooftop, overlooking, protecting the city. Now let's check him out. Next to some other action figures, starting off with some other Spawn figures. Here's this Deviant Spawn from Rat City, next to the Robot War Spawn. This is the newest wave of Spawn figures, part of the 30th anniversary collection of McFarlane toys. And both these figures has a Platinum Chase variant. I'm on the hunt for both. Here he is, next to the most recent McFarlane Spawn release. This is the Kickstarter Medieval Spawn. And here, next to the previous Spawn wave, these are a couple of Spawn figures from Call of Duty. Then, next to the previous wave of 30th anniversary McFarlane Toys Spawn figures. Now let's check them out, next to some of my favorite Spawn figures. Here he is, next to the first Kickstarter Spawn. Fantastic traditional Spawn figure. And then, a couple of Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn figures, my favorites from that. On the left, we have the first one to sort of kickstart the modern Spawn action figure craze. And on the right, we have the Shadow of Spawn from Mortal Kombat 11. Next, we have the Batman vs. Spawn from the 2-pack. This is one of my favorite Spawn figures, even though the cape hinders a little bit of his articulation. And on the right, we have the Throne Spawn. And finally, here he is, next to a figure of Todd McFarlane himself, and the high school or proto-Spawn. This is how Spawn looked in the early prototype drawings of Todd McFarlane. Now let's check him out, next to some action figures from different various companies, so we can see how he fits in both scale and style-wise, in case you want to know which lines you can mix him with. Since he's a McFarlane toy, they're typically the 7-inch scale. I'm going to start off my comparisons with some of the larger action figure lines I collect, and work way smaller. But first, let's check him out with some of his McFarlane Toys brothers. In front of you are 5 different action figure lines, all from McFarlane Toys, all 7-inch scale. And now, with some Jack-specific wrestling figures, and some Diamond Select toys. Here's the Spawn, next to a hot dog bun. And here he is, with some DC Direct and NECA figures. Then, with both some Mattel and Jazzwares wrestling figures. And now, with some Mezco and Mattel DC figures. Next, with some Mafex and Hasbro Marvel Legends. And finally, with some SH Figure Arts and Jazzwares Fortnite figures. So overall, it's a cool Deviant Spawn from Rat City, but he definitely has his flaws. Now personally, I'm not a big fan of the rubber spikes on his forearms or shoulder. I think his cape sucks, it's just so thin. And then he has single jointed elbows, single jointed knees, and absolutely no useful rotation in his legs at all. Now he looks pretty cool. I like the armored suit. Kind of makes you think of Iron Man, Mark Spawn. But he does have a lot of things going against him, which kind of sucks. if I had to rate this guy, I think I have to give him a 6 out of 10. I mean, he looks good, but the single joints and the life rotation and the cape, I just can't bring myself to give him higher than a 6. And he's way better than the other guy in this wave. So, God, I can only imagine what I'll rate that guy. Still, this is a nice figure, and I like the fact that it's a spawn, which is not Al Simmons, and it's a totally different health spawn. But he definitely has some flaws, and with the modern McFarlane articulation, I don't know how they release this guy this way. The ankles, the knees, the elbows, they could all be definitely better. He also probably could use a weapon of some kind. He's got that gripping hand with a trigger finger. You know. So this is D Hunter. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked the video, press like below. If you have anything you want to say with the video, head to the comment section. If you want to see additional action figure reviews from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate if you do that. Once again, this is D Hunter. Thank you for watching this video, and I will talk to you guys real soon.